You have exactly 5 seconds to explain why this report is on my desk with these errors before I call security to escort you out of the building. Ryder Blackwood's voice cut through the executive floor of Blackwood Tower like a steel blade. The young intern stood frozen, his Adam's apple bobbing as he struggled to form words. Lyra Thornfield stepped out of the elevator into this tense scene, clutching her portfolio and resume. The 48th floor of the Manhattan skyscraper wasn't how she had imagined starting her morning, watching a man being publicly eviscerated by the infamous CEO. I asked for projections based on last quarter's numbers, not whatever fantasy figures you pulled from thin air, Ryder continued, his tall frame imposing in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Does Columbia Business School teach you to make up data now? Sir, the intern began. For seconds, Lyra took a breath and walked toward the reception desk, where a woman in her 50s watched the scene with resigned familiarity. I'm Lyra Thornfield. I have an interview for the executive assistant position at 9. The receptionist gave her a look that might have been pity. Diane Keene, you're watching the reason we need a new assistant. 5th one this year. She nodded toward Ryder, who was now examining the report page by page, tearing it apart with cutting remarks. 1 second remaining, Ryder announced. Sir, there was a software glitch in the financial modeling program. The intern finally managed. I tried to. Time's up. And so is your internship. Ryder handed the report back and turned away. Ms. Keene, call HR and have them process his exit paperwork. As the intern shuffled toward the elevator, Lyra caught his eye. The defeat there made her stomach tighten, but she couldn't afford sympathy. She needed this job. Her phone vibrated. The hospital again. She silenced it without looking and straightened her shoulders as Diane spoke into her headset. Mr. Blackwood, your 9 o'clock is here. Ms. Thornfield for the EA position. Ryder turned, noticing Lyra for the first time. His eyes were startlingly blue against his dark hair, assessing her with cold efficiency. My office. Now. Lyra followed him through glass doors into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. The space was minimalist, all steel, glass, and white surfaces. Your resume says Cornell. Economics and Business Administration, he said without preamble, circling his desk. Why should I hire you when the last assistant from an Ivy League school couldn't handle the job for more than 6 weeks? Because I'm not here for a resume builder or to learn the business. I'm here to work. Lyra met his gaze steadily. And I've done my research on you and Blackwood Enterprises. Everyone does research, he dismissed, picking up her resume. Tell me something I don't hear from every applicant. You're about to close a deal with Hartley Industries that will either double your company's market share or destroy it completely. When his eyes snapped up to hers, she continued. The market hasn't caught wind yet because you've kept negotiations private, but your stock has risen 3.8% in the last week on speculation alone. A flicker of interest crossed his face. How did you know about Hartley? Pattern recognition. 3 canceled appointments with major clients, suddenly freeing up your schedule. Your CFO's recent trip to Chicago, where Hartley's headquarters are located. The subtle changes to your company's acquisition patterns in the renewable energy sector, which happens to be Hartley's weakest division. A tense silence filled the room as Ryder studied her. Impressive detective work, Miss Thornfield, but still circumstantial. Her phone vibrated again. She ignored it. This position requires absolute discretion and competence under extreme pressure, Ryder continued. My last assistant had a nervous breakdown after 3 months. The one before quit without notice. Why should I believe you're different? Because unlike them, I have no choice but to succeed. The words came out more forcefully than she intended. I mean, I'm committed to excellence in my work. The phone buzzed once more. This time, Ryder noticed. Something more important than this interview, Miss Thornfield? Lyra hesitated. No, sir. Then why is your phone vibrating every 30 seconds? Either answer it or turn it off completely. She took out her phone, intending to silence it, when she saw the hospital's number and the text preview. Emergency regarding Willow Thornfield. Please call immediately. Her heart stopped. I'm sorry, Mr. Blackwood. This is an emergency. My sister. She stood, suddenly torn. I need to take this. We're in the middle of an interview. It's the hospital. Her voice cracked slightly. Please. Something in her tone must have registered because he gestured toward the door with an impatient wave. Make it quick. Lyra stepped into the hallway, answering with shaking hands. Hello? This is Lyra Thornfield. The nurse's voice was professionally calm. Miss Thornfield, your sister's condition has deteriorated. Dr. Reynolds wants to discuss treatment options immediately. Willow's asking for you. I'll be there as soon as I can, she promised, ending the call. When she returned to the office, Ryder was reviewing documents as if she had never left. Mr. Blackwood, I apologize, but I need to go. My sister is in the hospital and her condition has worsened. He looked up, expression unreadable. So you're withdrawing your application? No, Lyra said firmly. I want this job. I need this job. But right now, my sister needs me more. You do realize that if you walk out of this interview, you're most likely ending any chance of employment here. I understand. She gathered her portfolio. But if you're looking for someone who can make impossible choices under pressure, you've just witnessed my decision-making process firsthand. She turned to leave, already calculating the fastest route to Mount Sinai Hospital. Ms. Thornfield. She paused at the door. Be at your desk at 7 a.m. tomorrow. You start with a 90-day probationary period. One mistake, and you're done. Lyra turned back, surprised. You're hiring me? Contingently. His eyes narrowed. Now go see about your sister. And remember, 7 a.m. As the elevator doors closed, Lyra exhaled. She had the job. For now. But at what cost? Working for Ryder Blackwood was rumored to be career suicide. Yet the salary would cover Willow's medical bills, if she could last longer than his previous assistants. The thought of her sister's deteriorating condition pushed everything else aside. She had to get to the hospital. Tomorrow's problems would have to wait until tomorrow. Lyra arrived at Blackwood Tower at 6:30 a.m., determined to be prepared before her new boss appeared. The security guard barely glanced at her temporary badge as she made her way to the executive floor. The office was eerily quiet, with only the soft hum of air conditioning and distant cleaning staff breaking the silence. She located her desk, a sleek glass workstation positioned directly outside Ryder's office with a clear view through the glass walls. There was no privacy here. Every action would be visible to him. The message was clear: constant surveillance. A stack of folders awaited her, topped with a single page of instructions in precise handwriting. Coffee preferences, scheduling protocols, communication hierarchies, all laid out with military precision. At the bottom, familiarize yourself with the Hartley acquisition files. Access code 7842. Lyra quickly logged into the computer system using the credentials provided and pulled up the files. What she found made her breath catch. The acquisition wasn't just significant, it was revolutionary. Blackwood Enterprises was attempting to absorb its largest competitor in a move that would reshape the entire tech industry. The elevator chimed at 6:58 a.m. Ryder emerged in a navy suit, phone pressed to his ear. He nodded curtly at Lyra before entering his office, still engaged in what sounded like a tense conversation. I don't care what their lawyers are saying, Marcus. The non-disclosure agreement is ironclad. He paced behind his desk. Someone leaked information, and I want to know who. Lyra immediately pulled up the day's schedule and prepared the espresso according to the detailed instructions. As she placed the cup on his desk, Ryder ended his call with visible frustration. The Hartley deal is compromised, he said without preamble. Someone from inside leaked specifics to their legal team. Now they're demanding renegotiation of terms. Lyra maintained her composure. Would you like me to reschedule your morning appointments to deal with this? No. We proceed as normal. Showing concern signals weakness. He took a sip of the espresso and raised an eyebrow, seemingly surprised by its perfection. What do you know about information security, Miss Thornfield? Enough to recognize vulnerabilities in a system, she answered carefully. May I ask which specific information was leaked? Our valuation figures for their renewable energy division. Only 6 people had access to those numbers. His eyes narrowed. 7 now, including you. When did the leak occur? Within the last 72 hours. Then I'm not your leak, Lyra said simply. But I might be able to help trace it. Ryder studied her for a moment. How is your sister? The abrupt change of subject threw her. Stabilized for now. She needs a specialized treatment not covered by insurance. Hence your desperation for this position. It wasn't a question. Let's be clear. Your personal circumstances are irrelevant to me except insofar as they affect your performance. Her phone buzzed with a text from the hospital, but she resisted checking it. Understood. Good. The board meeting is in 30 minutes. You'll attend and take notes. He handed her a tablet. Everything I say, everything they say. Pay particular attention to Marcus Fletcher. He's CFO and one of my suspected leaks. The morning raced by in a blur of meetings and rapid-fire instructions. Lyra absorbed information at a dizzying pace, learning the key players and power dynamics. Marcus Fletcher, the silver-haired CFO with a Harvard pedigree. Elena Park, the shrewd legal counsel who watched everyone with calculating eyes. James Wilson, the veteran operations director who seemed perpetually nervous around Ryder. By evening, most employees had left, but lights still burned on the executive floor. Lyra's fingers flew across her keyboard, compiling the report Ryder had demanded on board members' reactions to the Hartley situation. Still here, she looked up to find Elena Park leaning against her desk. Mr. Blackwood needed this report tonight. Elena smiled thinly. Some advice? Don't work too hard too fast. He'll only expect more. I appreciate the concern. It's not concern, Elena corrected. It's warning. Ryder burns through assistance because he demands impossible things. The last one, Caroline? Hospitalized for exhaustion. I can handle it. That's what they all say. Elena straightened. There's a betting pool, you know. How long you'll last. I gave you 2 weeks. After Elena left, Lyra finished the report and knocked on Ryder's door. He was standing at the window, Manhattan spread out below like a glittering circuit board. The board report, she said, handing him the tablet. He skimmed it quickly. You identified the micro-expressions I mentioned. Fletcher touched his watch whenever you mentioned valuation figures. Wilson avoided eye contact during discussion of the leak. Observant, Ryder commented, but not conclusive. Lyra hesitated, then took a chance. There's something else. I reviewed the digital access logs for the Hartley files. His head snapped up. That wasn't part of your assignment. I know, but there's an anomaly. Someone accessed the files at 2:14 a.m. 3 days ago using Marcus Fletcher's credentials, but according to his calendar, he was on a red-eye to London then. Ryder set down the tablet. Either his credentials were compromised, or someone else used them while he was in transit, Lyra finished. Either way, it warrants investigation. A charged silence filled the office. For the first time, Ryder looked at her with something approaching respect. Go home, Miss Thornfield. It's after 9. I need to finish the... That wasn't a suggestion. His tone softened marginally. The hospital called your phone twice in the last hour. You've been checking texts discreetly all day. Go see your sister. Surprised that he'd noticed, Lyra nodded. Thank you. As she gathered her things, Ryder added. The security breach. Keep that between us. Trust no one here until we know more. Of course. And Lyra. He rarely used her first name. Whoever is trying to sabotage this deal doesn't understand what's at stake. This isn't just about business. What is it about? Something dark flashed across his expression. Justice. The cryptic answer followed her into the elevator and out into the cool Manhattan night. As she hailed a cab to the hospital, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that she'd stepped into something far more complex than corporate espionage. Her phone buzzed with an incoming email. Ryder had granted her the highest security clearance in the system. Access even his executives didn't have. The message contained only 3 words. Find the mole. At the hospital, Willow was asleep, her slight frame dwarfed by the medical equipment. Only 19, with the same auburn hair as Lyra, but none of the sturdiness. The specialist had left his card, Dr. Hammond, experimental oncology. Lyra took her sister's hand and made a silent promise. She would find Ryder's mole, secure her position, and save Willow, no matter what secrets she uncovered behind Blackwood's glass walls. 3 weeks into her new position, Lyra had established a precarious routine. Arrive at 6:30 a.m., leave well past 9 p.m., visit Willow during lunch if possible, sleep for a few hours, then repeat. The investigation into the security breach had yielded frustrating dead ends. Whoever had used Fletcher's credentials had covered their tracks meticulously. The morning of the crucial Hartley meeting, Lyra arrived to find Ryder already in his office, which was unusual even for him. The Hartleys will be here in an hour, he said when she entered with his espresso. Conrad Hartley and his daughter Vanessa. Lyra nodded. The conference room is prepared. Security has their clearance. There's been a change of plans. Ryder turned his laptop toward her. A gossip news site displayed the headline, Blackwood and Hartley merger, business or personal. Sources say Ryder Blackwood pursuing romantic reunion with ex-Vanessa Hartley. This complicates things, Lyra said, quickly scanning the article. They're implying the acquisition is personally motivated. It's a deliberate tactic. Conrad Hartley plants these stories when he feels cornered in negotiations. Ryder's jaw tightened. Vanessa and I dated briefly 5 years ago. It ended badly. Should we issue a statement clarifying? No. We're changing strategy. Ryder stood and straightened his tie. I need you to come to the meeting. I always take notes for UN. Not as my assistant. As my fiancé. Lyra stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Excuse me. It's a countermove. Conrad thinks he can destabilize negotiations by dragging personal history into this. I'm neutralizing his advantage. By pretending we're engaged? Lyra's voice rose despite her attempts to remain professional. Precisely. Ryder seemed completely unfazed by the absurdity of his request. The story will shift from Ryder pursuing his ex to Ryder moved on and is closing a purely business deal. This is insane. I can't just. You can and you will. His tone left no room for argument. But there's more. The negotiations aren't going to conclude today. Conrad will invite us to continue at his estate in the Hamptons this weekend. And you expect me to continue this charade for an entire weekend? For a week, actually, and not in the Hamptons. Ryder handed her a folder. We'll counteroffer to host at my Nantucket estate. It gives us home field advantage. Lyra opened the folder to find documents about a sprawling oceanfront compound on Nantucket Island, complete with guest houses and private beach. This is completely outside my job description, she said firmly, which is why I'm offering compensation beyond your salary. Ryder slid a check across the desk. The amount made her breath catch. Enough to cover Willow's experimental treatment and a year of follow-up care. This is the price of your participation, he finished. Plus a signed agreement for a specialized medical plan that covers your sister's ongoing treatments. Lyra's hands trembled slightly. You research my sister's condition. I research everything that might impact my business, Miss Thornfield. His expression remained unreadable. Your sister needs the Hammersmith protocol. It's not covered by standard insurance, but I have connections at Sloan Kettering. Dr. Hammond is already on board. The mention of Willow's specialist confirmed he'd been thorough. Lyra felt cornered and grateful simultaneously, an unsettling combination. Why me? You could hire an actress, someone trained for this kind of deception. Because you're already familiar with the deal specifics. You've proven your discretion and intelligence. He paused. And because you have more motivation than money could buy. Your sister's life depends on your success. The manipulation was transparent, but effective. Lyra thought of Willow, growing weaker each day. What exactly would this entail? We present as a recently engaged couple who've kept their relationship private due to corporate optics. You'll need to know personal details about me, my habits, preferences. I've compiled a file. He nodded toward the folder she still held. You have 3 hours to memorize it before we depart for Nantucket. 3 hours? Lyra's mind raced. What about my duties here? The security breach investigation. Elena will cover your official duties. The investigation continues at Nantucket. I suspect one of the Hartley's team may be connected to our leak. Ryder checked his watch. Conrad and Vanessa arrive in 40 minutes. Your answer? Every instinct told Lyra this was dangerous territory, blurring professional lines, entering a deception that could destroy her career if discovered. Yet the check in her hand represented Willow's best chance. I'll do it, she said finally. But I have conditions. Ryder raised an eyebrow, clearly unaccustomed to conditions. My agreement with you remains confidential. No one else knows this is an arrangement. Not your executives, not the board. Agreed. I maintain separate sleeping quarters at Nantucket. Naturally. And when this is over, regardless of the outcome with Hartley Industries, my position here remains secure for at least 1 year. Ryder studied her with unexpected approval. You negotiate well under pressure, Miss Thornfield. Done. He extended his hand to seal their agreement. When Lyra took it, his grip was firm and warm. Nothing like the cold-blooded shark she'd imagined when first meeting him. One more thing, he said, releasing her hand. You'll need this. From his desk drawer, he produced a small velvet box and opened it to reveal an emerald-cut diamond ring that could only be described as spectacular. Family heirloom, he explained, watching her expression. more convincing than something hastily purchased. Lyra slipped it onto her finger, surprised by its perfect fit. You knew my ring size. Like I said, I research everything. His gaze lingered on the ring. My grandmother wore that for 62 years of marriage. It's never been worn since. The personal detail, a rare glimpse behind his carefully constructed facade, caught Lyra off guard. Before she could respond, his intercom buzzed. The Hartleys have arrived early, sir, the security desk announced. Send them up, Ryder instructed, then turned to Lyra. Ready to play your part, fiancé? The words sent an unexpected shiver through her. As ready as I'll ever be. As the elevator chimed announcing their visitors, Ryder took her hand, his thumb brushing over the diamond ring. Remember, Lyra, for the next week, your sister's future depends on how convincingly you appear to love me. The elevator doors opened, revealing a striking silver-haired man and a beautiful woman who assessed Lyra with immediate hostility. Ryder's hand tightened around hers as he whispered, "Let the game begin." Conrad Hartley's handshake was firm but cold as he assessed Lyra with calculating eyes. I wasn't aware Ryder was bringing a guest to our negotiations. Not a guest, Ryder corrected smoothly, his arm sliding around Lyra's waist. My fiancée, Lyra Thornfield. Conrad's eyebrows rose fractionally. Beside him, Vanessa Hartley's perfect smile faltered for just a second before returning with mechanical precision. How? Unexpected, Vanessa said, extending a manicured hand toward Lyra. Ryder never mentioned he was seeing anyone. We've kept our relationship private, Lyra replied, channeling the confidence she'd seen in Ryder during board meetings. Corporate politics can be so tedious. Vanessa's grip tightened momentarily. Indeed, though some might say workplace romances are equally tedious. The barb was thinly veiled. Lyra maintained her smile, feeling Ryder's subtle pressure against her back, a silent signal to stay calm. Perhaps we should discuss the revised acquisition terms, Ryder interjected, guiding them toward the conference room. Lyra has been instrumental in structuring the renewable energy portfolio valuation. The morning passed in tense negotiation. Lyra played her dual role with careful precision, professional when discussing business points, affectionate when Vanessa's gaze lingered too long on Ryder. By noon, Conrad had taken Ryder's bait. This is going to require more extensive discussion than I anticipated, the older man conceded. Your counterproposal on the energy division is creative. Then I suggest we continue somewhere more conducive to in-depth negotiation, Ryder proposed. My Nantucket estate has excellent facilities for both work and relaxation. We could fly out this afternoon. Conrad exchanged glances with Vanessa. The Hamptons would be more convenient for us. Nantucket offers privacy, Ryder countered. No reporters, no industry gossip. Complete focus on finalizing this deal. The underlying message was clear, no more tabloid manipulations. Conrad nodded slowly. Very well. We'll join you in Nantucket. 2 days. A week, Ryder responded firmly. These terms deserve thorough consideration. After the Hartleys departed to prepare for the trip, Lyra exhaled heavily. That was intense. You did well, Ryder said, loosening his tie. Vanessa was trying to rattle you. I noticed. Lyra twisted the diamond ring, already feeling its unfamiliar weight. She still has feelings for you. She has feelings for what I represent. Power, status. He checked his watch. The helicopter leaves in an hour. Everything you need is already at the estate. The flight to Nantucket passed in a blur of preparation. Ryder briefed her on the expected players, Conrad's legal team, Vanessa's role as heir apparent to Hartley Industries, the board members flying in for the weekend session. When they landed, Lyra gasped despite herself. The estate sprawled across a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, a masterpiece of glass, stone, and cedar shingles. More impressive than the photos she'd studied. It's been in my family for 3 generations, Ryder explained as they walked through massive oak doors into a soaring entryway. My grandfather built it, my father expanded it, and I rarely use it. A housekeeper greeted them warmly. Welcome home, Mr. Blackwood. Everything is prepared as requested. Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. This is Miss Thornfield. Your quarters are ready, miss. East Wing, with the ocean view. Mrs. Cooper smiled knowingly. Though I understand you'll be staying in the master suite. Lyra managed a smile, silently cursing Ryder's thoroughness. Of course the staff would assume they shared a room. I'll show Lyra around, Ryder said. The Hartleys arrive in 3 hours. As Mrs. Cooper departed, Lyra whispered, I thought we agreed on separate quarters. We did. You have your own suite connected to mine. Appearances matter, but privacy remains intact. He led her up a sweeping staircase. The staff believes we're genuinely engaged. Fewer opportunities for leaks that way. The master wing was palatial, a stunning suite with panoramic ocean views, a fireplace large enough to stand in, and furnishings that managed to be both luxurious and understated. Your quarters, Ryder said, opening a concealed door that revealed an equally impressive suite. Connected but separate. Lock it from your side if you wish. Lyra stepped into the room, noting her luggage had already been unpacked, her clothes hanging in the walk-in closet. Next to her modest wardrobe hung an array of designer dresses, blazers, and casual where she'd never seen before. I took the liberty of having some appropriate attire delivered, Ryder explained, following her gaze. Tonight's dinner requires formal wear. This is excessive. This is necessary. The Hartleys gauge worth by appearance. We're playing their game to win our objective. A chime from his phone interrupted them. Ryder frowned at the screen. Security alert. Someone attempted to access the Hartley files remotely just now. From here. No. Manhattan office. He typed rapidly. I've locked them out, but this confirms my suspicion. Someone's feeding information to Conrad. Lyra sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly overwhelmed. This is all so much more than I signed up for. Having second thoughts? His tone wasn't accusatory, merely inquisitive. No, I made a commitment. She twisted the ring again, a nervous habit already forming. But I keep feeling there's something you're not telling me about this deal. Ryder was silent for a moment, his expression unreadable. Get settled. We'll strategize before dinner. Hours later, dressed in a midnight blue gown that fit as if made for her, Lyra joined Ryder on the terrace overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the water. He wore a tuxedo with effortless elegance, leaning against the stone balustrade with a glass of whiskey. You clean up well, Miss Thornfield, he commented, his eyes taking in her transformation. So do you, Mr. Blackwood. She accepted the glass of champagne he offered. Though I suspect you were born in a custom suit. The hint of a smile crossed his face. Close. Prep school uniform at age 4. This glimpse of his childhood surprised her. Before she could inquire further, he nodded toward the horizon where storm clouds gathered. Weather report says we're in for a significant system tonight. The Hartleys' arrival might be delayed. As if on cue, his phone chimed with an incoming message. Their pilot refuses to fly in. They'll arrive tomorrow morning instead. So tonight is just us. He seemed to consider something. A perfect opportunity to get our story straight. Convincing details about our relationship that Vanessa will certainly probe for. Over dinner in the massive dining room, they constructed their fictional romance. Meeting at a charity gala, quiet dates away from public eyes, a surprise proposal during a private flight to his vineyard in Sonoma. We need to be consistent with personal details, Ryder noted as they moved to the library where a fire crackled against the gathering storm outside. Things only a couple would know about each other. Thunder rolled across the sky as rain began lashing against the windows. Lyra sipped her wine, feeling its warmth spread through her. Like what? Morning habits. Food preferences. The side of the bed you sleep on. Left, she answered automatically. You? Right. Convenient. His eyes held a hint of amusement. What else? Allergies, phobias, scars. Allergic to shellfish, afraid of small enclosed spaces, scar on my left knee from falling out of a tree at 12. She hesitated. Your turn. No allergies. Dislike heights despite owning the tallest building in our portfolio. Scar along my ribs from a sailing accident at 16. He refilled their glasses. Family. Just Willow. Our parents died in a car accident when I was 18. She was 12. Something shifted in his expression. I'm sorry to hear that. What about your family? The file mentioned parents deceased, no siblings, but no details. Ryder stared into the fire. Plane crash, 15 years ago. I was 22. The raw pain in his voice surprised her. This wasn't performance. It was genuine grief, still fresh after all these years. I'm sorry, she said quietly. A crash of thunder punctuated the moment. The lights flickered once, twice, then plunged the room into darkness, leaving only the fireplace glow illuminating their faces. Power outage, Ryder observed unnecessarily. Happens during storms out here. Rain pelted the windows with increasing intensity. Wind howled around the eaves of the old house, making it creak and settle. Will it come back on soon? Lyra asked, setting down her glass. Generators should kick in for essential systems, but sometimes the delay is... A distant hum interrupted him. There, though the East Wing often has issues. My quarters, Lyra realized. You're welcome to stay in the main suite if the power remains out in yours. He kept his tone professional despite the intimate implication. A tremendous crash from outside startled them both. Ryder crossed to the window, squinting through sheets of rain. Tree down, blocking the main road. We're stranded. Until morning at least. He turned back to her, his face half in shadow, half illuminated by firelight. Welcome to Nantucket, Miss Thornfield. The storm seemed to isolate them from the world, creating a strange intimacy neither had anticipated. As lightning flashed across the sky, Lyra caught Ryder watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Vulnerability mingled with something more intense. For a moment, the masks they prepared for their Nantucket performance slipped, revealing something unexpected beneath. Morning brought clarity after the storm. Clear skies, debris-strewn grounds, and the awkward acknowledgement that Lyra had spent the night on Ryder's couch after power failed to return to the East Wing. They shared coffee on the terrace, watching groundskeepers clear fallen branches before the Hartleys' arrival. Last night, Ryder began, surprising Lyra with his hesitation. Thank you for listening. I rarely discuss my parents. It helps our cover story, she replied pragmatically, though they both knew their midnight conversation had veered far from rehearsal into genuine territory. The Hartleys will be here within the hour, he said, switching to business mode. Conrad will bring his legal team, Stanford, Mitchell, and probably Reed Cooper, his financial wizard. Vanessa brings her own people. You mentioned she dated you 5 years ago. Anything specific I should know? Something hardened in Ryder's expression. She ended things when a better opportunity arose. Bradley Winston, heir to Winston Media. That lasted until his company faltered. She's strategic in her affections. The helicopter's distant thrum ended further conversation. Their week of performance had officially begun. The days fell into a pattern. Mornings filled with tense negotiations in Ryder's home office. Afternoons of social activities designed to appear relaxed while creating strategic pressure. Sailing excursions where Ryder showcased his expertise. Wine tastings where he demonstrated his superior knowledge. Beach walks where his hand remained possessively at Lyra's waist whenever Vanessa approached. Through it all, Lyra maintained her dual role, the loving fiancée and the sharp business analyst. Her insights during negotiations impressed even Conrad, who began directing questions her way rather than to Ryder's board members. On the third evening, Ryder hosted a formal dinner for all parties. Lyra wore an emerald gown that matched her engagement ring, her hair swept up to reveal shoulders that Ryder occasionally touched in casual intimacy for their audience. Tell us how you met, Vanessa prompted during dessert, her smile not reaching her eyes. Ryder is so private about his personal life. They delivered their practiced story flawlessly, adding small details, finishing each other's sentences with the ease of a genuine couple. You seem well suited, Conrad observed, studying them. Though I find it interesting that no announcement was made until our negotiations began. Some things are worth protecting from public scrutiny, Ryder replied, his thumb brushing over Lyra's knuckles. Unlike others, I don't conduct my personal life through press releases. The barb landed precisely. Conrad's jaw tightened while Vanessa's smile froze in place. After dinner, Ryder suggested brandy in the library. Lyra excused herself, needing space from the performance. She wandered through the sprawling house, eventually finding herself in a previously unexplored wing. A partially open door revealed what appeared to be Ryder's private study, smaller than his formal office, filled with books and personal items. She knew she should turn back, but something drew her forward. Unlike the meticulously organized main office, this room contained controlled chaos, files spread across a desk, photos on the walls, a life outside the corporate mask. A framed photo caught her attention, a younger Ryder with an older couple, presumably his parents. They stood before a small aircraft, smiling broadly. The image of happiness contradicted the anguish she'd heard in his voice discussing their deaths. Beside the photo sat a worn leather box. Hesitantly, Lyra opened it to find newspaper clippings about the crash, investigation reports, handwritten notes. One headline jumped out: Blackwood plane crash, mechanical failure or sabotage? Finding anything interesting? Lyra spun around to find Vanessa in the doorway, casually leaning against the frame as if she belonged there. I was just looking for Ryder, Lyra lied, closing the box. In his private study? How convenient. Vanessa entered, trailing her fingers along the desk edge. You play your part well, you know. The devoted fiancé. Almost had me convinced. I don't know what you're implying. Please. Vanessa laughed softly. I dated Ryder. I know how he operates. You're his assistant playing dress-up to help him close this deal. Lyra maintained her composure despite her racing heart. You clearly don't know him as well as you think. I know he's obsessed with his parents' accident. I know he blames my father, though he's never found proof. Vanessa gestured to the box. 15 years of investigation, and still nothing concrete. The revelation stunned Lyra. Why would your father be involved? Blackwood Industries and Hartley were competitors even then. My father wanted to acquire their aerospace division. When they refused to sell, Vanessa shrugged. Ryder created conspiracy theories to cope with grief. You sound awfully dismissive of a tragedy. Business is business. Casualties happen. Vanessa's cold assessment chilled Lyra. Just like you'll be a casualty when he's done with you. He doesn't care about you. You're a tool, like everyone else in his life. Before Lyra could respond, Ryder appeared in the doorway, his expression darkening as he took in the scene. Vanessa, this area is private. Just getting acquainted with your fiancé, she replied smoothly. Fascinating woman. So adaptable. After Vanessa sauntered out, Ryder closed the door behind her. What are you doing in here? I was exploring and found it by accident, Lyra admitted. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. No, you shouldn't have. His tone was ice. What did she tell you? That you believe her father was somehow involved in your parents' accident. Ryder's gaze went to the leather box, then back to Lyra. It wasn't an accident. How can you be sure? Because my father called me the night before. His voice dropped. He said he had evidence of corporate espionage by Conrad Hartley. Proof that Hartley had stolen proprietary designs from our aerospace division. Did he share this proof with you? He was bringing it home on that flight. Ryder's hands clenched. The plane exploded midair. All evidence was destroyed. Convenient timing. Lyra processed this revelation. This acquisition isn't just business for you. It's personal. It's justice, Ryder corrected. Conrad has spent 15 years building his empire on stolen Blackwood innovations. When I absorb his company, I'll finally have access to their internal archives and proof of what he did. The pieces fell into place. Ryder's obsession with the deal, his willingness to go to extraordinary lengths, including their fake engagement. Is that why you needed me? Because Vanessa would recognize this as a vendetta if you didn't appear to have moved on personally? Partly, he acknowledged. But your financial analysis skills were equally valuable. You see patterns others miss. A knock interrupted them. James Wilson, Ryder's operations director, appeared with obvious discomfort. Sir, there's been another security breach. Someone accessed the Hartley negotiation files from within the estate's network. Ryder straightened. When? 20 minutes ago. We've narrowed it to the East Wing, but can't pinpoint further. Where Vanessa and her team are staying, Lyra noted. Lock down the system, Ryder ordered. Full access audit. After Wilson left, Lyra turned to Ryder. She was distracting me while someone accessed the files. Possible. Why tell me all this now? About your parents? Ryder studied her for a long moment. Because I need you fully committed. Vanessa will try to turn you against me now that she suspects our engagement is strategic. She thinks I'm just a pawn in your game. And what do you think? His gaze held hers, searching. Before Lyra could answer, her phone rang. The hospital. Her stomach dropped as she answered. The news was worse than she feared. Willow had developed complications. The experimental treatment needed to begin immediately if there was any hope of success. When she ended the call, Ryder was watching her intently. Your sister? Lyra nodded, fighting back tears. I need to get back to New York. Tonight. I'll arrange the helicopter. No questions, no hesitation. The negotiations can wait a day. He stepped closer, surprising her by taking her hand. Family comes first, Lyra. The simple humanity in his statement caught her off guard. This wasn't the ruthless CEO she'd first met, but someone who understood loss intimately. As she packed essentials, thoughts raced through her mind. Ryder's revelation about the Hartleys cast everything in a new light. Was she helping deliver justice, or enabling a vendetta based on grief? Was Vanessa right about being a pawn in his game? The helicopter awaited on the lawn, blades already turning. Ryder accompanied her to the helipad. "I'll join you tomorrow," he said above the noise. "Complete the treatment paperwork for your sister. Everything's authorized." Impulse overrode caution as Lyra hugged him briefly. "Thank you." As the helicopter lifted off, Lyra noticed Vanessa watching from her window, a satisfied smile playing across her lips. Whatever game was being played, Lyra had just made an unexpected move, and Vanessa seemed pleased about it. The hospital corridor seemed endless as Lyra rushed toward Willow's room. Dr. Hammond intercepted her before she reached the door. "She's stable now," he assured her. "The crisis has passed, but we need to start the Hammersmith protocol immediately." "I have the authorization," Lyra said, pulling out the folder Ryder had prepared. "Everything should be in order." Dr. Hammond reviewed the documents, eyebrows rising slightly. "Direct authorization from Ryder Blackwood? This is unusual." "He's my fiancé," Lyra explained, the lie now practiced enough to sound natural. "Congratulations," the doctor replied, though his expression suggested skepticism. "We'll begin treatment tomorrow morning. You should get some rest." Inside the room, Willow was awake but weak, her complexion alarmingly pale against the white hospital sheets. Her face brightened at the sight of her sister. "You came back early," she observed as Lyra took her hand. "Trouble in paradise?" Despite everything, Lyra smiled. "Medical emergencies trump business trips. So it's just business with Mr. Billionaire?" Willow teased softly. The tabloids seemed to think otherwise. Lyra froze. "What tabloids?" Willow pointed to her tablet. "You're trending. Blackwood's secret romance is all over social media." Lyra grabbed the device and found herself staring at paparazzi photos from Nantucket. Her and Ryder walking on the beach, his hand at her waist, dining on the terrace, heads close together, boarding his private helicopter. The gossip sites were having a field day speculating about the mysterious woman who had captured the heart of Manhattan's most eligible bachelor. "This is..." Lyra trailed off, unsure how to explain. "Actually perfect," came Ryder's voice from the doorway. He stood there in a charcoal suit, looking remarkably fresh despite presumably flying straight from Nantucket. In his hands was an enormous arrangement of white lilies. "Mr. Blackwood," Willow breathed, suddenly self-conscious in her hospital gown. "Please, call me Ryder." He set the flowers beside her bed. "You must be Willow. Lyra speaks of you constantly." Lyra shot him a warning glance, but he smoothly continued their charade, charming Willow with practiced ease. He discussed her treatment with genuine knowledge, asked thoughtful questions about her interests, and generally behaved like a concerned future brother-in-law. When Willow drifted to sleep an hour later, Lyra led Ryder into the hallway. "You didn't need to come." "I did actually, both for appearances and because the situation at Nantucket deteriorated after you left." "What happened?" "Conrad is stalling. Claims he needs additional financial reviews before proceeding." Ryder's jaw tightened. "It's a tactic to buy time while they investigate our engagement's authenticity." "How did those photos get to the press?" "Vanessa, obviously, trying to force our hand, expose the relationship as fake." A nurse passed by, nodding politely. Ryder waited until she was out of earshot before continuing. "I've arranged for you to stay at my Manhattan apartment tonight. My security team detected someone following you to the hospital." "That seems excessive." "It's not. Conrad has hired private investigators before." His tone left no room for argument. "They're looking for weaknesses, and right now, your sister is one." The realization chilled her. "You think they'd use Willow somehow?" "I think they're desperate. The market's catching wind of our potential merger. Hartley's stock is volatile." He checked his phone. "My car is waiting downstairs. Pack whatever you need from your place on the way." At Lyra's modest apartment, she quickly gathered essentials while Ryder waited in the living room. She found him examining the framed photos on her bookshelf, mostly of her and Willow through the years. "You raised her after your parents died," he observed. "Not a question. I was in college. Deferred for a year to sort out guardianship, then brought her with me." Lyra zipped her bag. "We managed." "You did more than manage. You sacrificed your own opportunities." The insight surprised her. There wasn't really a choice. "There's always a choice." His gaze was unexpectedly gentle. You chose family. It's admirable. The drive to Ryder's apartment took them through Central Park at dusk. His building was exactly what she expected, a sleek high-rise with discreet security and a private elevator. The apartment itself, however, was not. Rather than the stark modernism of his office, his home was surprisingly warm. Rich woods, comfortable furniture, walls lined with books. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the park and city beyond. "This isn't what I imagined," Lyra admitted. "What did you expect?" "Chrome and glass. Something less lived in." A hint of a smile crossed his face. "Even sharks need somewhere to rest." He showed her to the guest room, then disappeared to take a work call. Lyra wandered the apartment, noting details that revealed glimpses of the private man. Dog-eared books on history and physics, a chess set mid-game, framed photographs of sailing expeditions. In his home office, a wall of monitors displayed Blackwood Enterprises data streams. One screen showed security footage of the Nantucket estate, where Conrad and Vanessa appeared to be engaged in a heated argument on the terrace. "They're discussing you," Ryder said, appearing behind her. "Vanessa thinks our engagement is genuine. Conrad isn't convinced." "Why would Vanessa think it's real?" "She caught me in your study. Because when you left, I was visibly concerned." He met her eyes directly. It wasn't entirely acting. The admission hung between them, creating a tension neither seemed prepared to address. "I should check some work emails," Lyra said, breaking the moment. "Use my laptop." He gestured to the desk. "More secure than your devices right now." As Lyra logged into her work account, a notification appeared, an email sent to her personal address from an anonymous account. The subject line read, "The truth about Ryder Blackwood." Her cursor hovered over it. Ryder had stepped out again to take another call. Despite her better judgment, she opened the message. Inside was a series of documents, internal Blackwood memos, financial statements, and what appeared to be personal notes from Ryder to his board. According to these records, the Hartley acquisition was structured to systematically dismantle the company, eliminating thousands of jobs in the process. More disturbing were the notes regarding Lyra herself. Thornfield provides convenient cover story. Sister's illness creates leverage for compliance. Maintain appearance of concern while keeping her isolated from other sources. Her stomach churned as she continued reading. The documents suggested Ryder had orchestrated her hiring, manipulated her sister's medical information, and planned the fake engagement months before proposing it. A final document contained what appeared to be Ryder's personal journal entry. "Vengeance requires sacrifice. Thornfield is collateral damage, but necessary to complete what my father started." The timestamp showed the entry from just 2 days ago. "Finding everything you need?" Lyra jumped at Ryder's voice. She quickly closed the email, her heart pounding. "Yes, just catching up." She forced a smile. "Everything okay with your call?" "Minor crisis averted." He studied her face. "You look pale. Should we check on Willow again?" "I'm fine. Just tired." She stood, needing distance. "I think I'll turn in early." In the guest room, Lyra examined the documents more thoroughly on her phone. They appeared authentic. Letterhead, signatures, timestamps, all correct. The implications were devastating. If real, they proved Vanessa right. She was merely a pawn in Ryder's revenge scheme. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Now you know the truth. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Central Park Boathouse. Come alone if you want to protect your sister." Sleep eluded her as she weighed her options. By morning, she'd made her decision. She left a note saying she needed to pick up additional items from her apartment, then slipped out while Ryder was on a conference call. The boathouse was quiet at that hour. Vanessa sat at a corner table, immaculately dressed despite the early hour. A folder rested on the table before her. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said as Lyra sat down. "Those documents, are they real?" "Absolutely. Ryder has been planning this for years." Vanessa pushed the folder forward. "These are the originals. My source risked everything to expose him." "Why show me this?" "Because I was you once, manipulated by Ryder, used for his purposes." A flash of what appeared to be genuine emotion crossed Vanessa's face. "He's obsessed with destroying my family over a tragedy that was ruled an accident." Lyra examined the papers. They contained more details, specific plans to use Willow's treatment as control, notes about Lyra's psychological profile suggesting she was susceptible to emotional manipulation when family is involved. "What do you want from me?" Lyra asked, her voice steady despite her internal turmoil. Walk away. Return to New York permanently. Tell him you can't continue the charade. Vanessa leaned forward. He needs you to close this deal. Without you, he'll have to renegotiate. And my sister's treatment will continue unaffected. I've arranged for her medical coverage through Hartley's foundation. Vanessa produced another document, a guarantee of payment for Willow's complete treatment protocol. No strings attached. The offer was tempting. End the deception, protect her sister, escape what now seemed like an elaborate manipulation. Why would you help me? Because I know what it's like to be collateral damage in his vendetta. Vanessa's perfect composure cracked slightly. Take the guarantee and disappear from his life. It's the only way to protect yourself and your sister. Lyra studied the woman across from her. Poised, beautiful, seemingly sincere. But something felt wrong. She remembered Ryder's grief when speaking of his parents, the unguarded moments they'd shared, his immediate response to Willow's crisis. I need time to think, Lyra said finally. You have until tomorrow morning. Vanessa stood gracefully. If you return to Nantucket with him, I can't help you anymore. As Vanessa walked away, Lyra remained at the table, staring at the documents that had shattered her trust. Whether they were authentic or an elaborate deception, one thing was clear. She was caught in a dangerous game between powerful adversaries, and her sister's life hung in the balance. When Lyra returned to her apartment, she found Ryder waiting in the hallway outside her door. Your phone tracker is still active, he explained before she could ask. His expression was carefully neutral. You met with Vanessa. Not a question. Lyra unlocked her door, walking inside without acknowledging him. He followed, closing the door quietly behind them. She showed me some interesting documents, Lyra said, turning to face him. Emails, memos, journal entries, all suggesting you planned this from the beginning. That you researched my sister's illness to use it as leverage. And you believed her. Again, not a question. The documents looked authentic. They were meant to. Ryder remained by the door, giving her space. Vanessa excels at manufacturing evidence. Did she offer to cover Willow's treatment if you walked away? The accuracy of his prediction unsettled her. How did you know? Because it's what I would do in her position. He didn't move closer. May I see these documents? Lyra hesitated, then handed him the folder. He examined each page carefully, his expression darkening. These signatures are accurate forgeries. The letterhead is correct. He flipped to the supposed journal entry. But I don't keep a journal, electronic or otherwise. Convenient defense. Not a defense, an explanation. He closed the folder. Everything in here is crafted from partial truths. Yes, I researched your sister's condition, after hiring you, not before. Yes, I plan to acquire Hartley Industries. It's been public knowledge for years. But manipulating you through Willow? Creating a fake engagement before I even knew you? That would require a level of sociopathy even I don't possess. Lyra wanted to believe him, which made her more skeptical. Why would Vanessa go to these lengths? Because we're 3 days from closing the acquisition and Conrad is running out of options. Ryder finally moved away from the door, setting the folder on her coffee table. The board vote is scheduled for Friday. Without you at Nantucket reinforcing our narrative, Conrad can claim personal instability on my part, dating my assistant, engagement falling apart mid-negotiations. You could find another woman to play the role. Not with your financial acumen, not with your credibility with the board. He met her eyes directly, and not with your ability to see through Vanessa's manipulations. Her phone rang, the hospital. Ryder stepped back, giving her privacy as she answered. Dr. Hammond's news was both good and concerning. Willow had responded well to the initial treatment, but the hospital's billing department had received notification that Blackwood's financial guarantee was being contested. When she ended the call, Ryder was watching her face. Hartley has moved faster than I anticipated. They're contesting the payment authorization for Willow's treatment, Lyra confirmed. How did they even know about it? The same way they knew about our meeting schedule, our security protocols, our negotiation strategy. Ryder's voice hardened. We have a mole at Blackwood, likely in the executive team. A cold realization washed over Lyra. The security breaches. Exactly. Someone with high-level access has been feeding information to Conrad. He checked his watch. The treatment guarantee came from my personal accounts, not the company. I can reinstate it immediately, but we need to get back to Nantucket. Why should I trust you? After all this, Because despite what Vanessa told you, I've never lied about what matters. His gaze was steady. Your sister's welfare, the security breach, my parents' deaths, and us. This engagement. That began as strategy, he acknowledged, but evolved into something I didn't anticipate. The simple admission caught her off guard. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed with an urgent message. The color drained from his face as he read it. What is it? Lyra asked. Elena Park just sent emergency notification. Vanessa accessed our merger documents using your credentials while you were meeting her. She's planting false information before the board vote. How is that possible? I never gave her access to my accounts. You left your authenticated session active on my laptop. His tone wasn't accusatory. She had someone waiting for exactly that opportunity. The pieces aligned with sickening clarity. The anonymous email, the meeting at the boathouse, all orchestrated to get her away from Ryder's apartment while she was still logged in. I need to get back to Nantucket, Ryder said. You should stay with Willow. I'll ensure her treatment continues uninterrupted. The distance in his voice was new, professional, detached. Her betrayal of trust, however manipulated, had created a breach between them. Lyra made her decision. I'm coming with you. You don't need to. I do. She grabbed her bag. Vanessa used me to sabotage you. I need to fix this. On the flight back to Nantucket, Lyra reviewed the falsified merger documents Elena had recovered. Vanessa had inserted clauses that would devastate Blackwood Enterprises while protecting Hartley assets, terms the board would never approve if properly explained. We need proof of the forgery before the vote, Ryder explained as they approached the island. Without it, it's my word against Conrad's, and half my board already thinks this acquisition is too aggressive. What about the mole? If we can identify them. That's plan B. Ryder's expression was grim. But I suspect the evidence we need is in Vanessa's personal files. She's too careful to use company servers for something this illegal. As the helicopter descended toward the estate, Lyra spotted Conrad and Vanessa waiting on the lawn. Their expressions confirmed what Ryder had predicted. They hadn't expected her to return. Ready? Ryder asked as the rotors slowed. Ready, Lyra confirmed, the engagement ring heavy on her finger. No longer a prop, but a declaration of allegiance in a war she hadn't fully understood until now. What awaited inside was more than a business negotiation. It was a battle for justice, truth, and perhaps something more personal that neither she nor Ryder was prepared to name. This is unexpected, Conrad Hartley remarked as Lyra stepped from the helicopter beside Ryder. We heard you'd return to New York permanently. Rumors of my departure were greatly exaggerated, Lyra replied, meeting Vanessa's ice-cold stare with steady resolve. The elder Hartley's smile didn't reach his eyes. We're just finalizing the merger amendments your colleagues submitted. Perfect timing for you to review them before tomorrow's board vote. Inside, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Board members from both companies milled about the great room, reviewing documents and engaged in hushed conversations. Elena Park intercepted them immediately. Ryder, we have a problem. Her voice was low, urgent. The document alteration is more extensive than we initially thought. They've embedded language that would give Hartley controlling interest post-merger. How did this get past legal review? Ryder demanded. Because it came from Lyra's account, which has final approval authorization. Elena glanced at Lyra. No one questioned its authenticity. Ryder's expression hardened. Convene the Blackwood board in my study. 15 minutes. While the executives assembled, Lyra slipped away to the east wing. Vanessa's suite would be heavily guarded, but there might be another way to access the evidence they needed. She located the estate's central server room, using the security credentials Ryder had given her before their return. Inside, she connected her tablet and began searching for digital footprints. Every access to the network left traces, timestamps, location data, file modifications. If Vanessa had altered documents using her credentials, the system logs would contain proof. The door opened behind her. Looking for something? James Wilson stood in the doorway, his nervous demeanor replaced with surprising confidence. Just checking system security, Lyra replied, casually disconnecting her tablet. Curious place to do that, especially when the board is meeting. Wilson stepped inside, closing the door. Ryder sent me to find you, but I think we both know that's not why I'm here. Understanding dawned. You're the mole. Such an unpleasant term. I prefer strategic realignment of loyalty. He smiled thinly. Conrad appreciates talent, unlike Ryder who's blinded by his vendetta. How long have you been feeding information to the Hartleys? Long enough to understand which side will prevail. Wilson glanced at her tablet, finding anything interesting in those logs. Enough to prove Vanessa accessed the system using my credentials. Those logs will unfortunately suffer a corruption error in about 5 minutes. He reached for her tablet. I'll need that. Lyra stepped back. The board won't approve the merger with these fraudulent terms. They already have, provisionally, just waiting for final signatures. Wilson's expression hardened. Conrad suspected you might return, which is why we accelerated the vote. It's happening now, not tomorrow. Realization struck like lightning. The scattered conversations downstairs, the gathering of executives, it wasn't preparation, it was implementation. Ryder doesn't know, she whispered. He's being informed as we speak that the vote proceeded without him due to concerns about his personal involvement affecting judgment. Wilson's smile returned. Corporate bylaws allow it under exceptional circumstances. Lyra needed to warn Ryder, but Wilson blocked the door. She glanced around for options, then made a quick decision. She activated the emergency server shutdown protocol, a measure that would trigger security alerts throughout the estate. Alarms blared instantly. Wilson lunged for her, but Lyra was already moving, slipping past him through the door and racing down the corridor. She found chaos in the great room. Security personnel converged from all directions, while board members looked around in confusion. Through the crowd, she spotted Ryder confronting Conrad near the fireplace, his expression thunderous. You can't possibly think this will stand, Ryder was saying as Lyra approached. Fraudulent documents, unauthorized vote. All perfectly legal, Conrad interrupted smoothly. The board determined your judgment was compromised by personal factors. His gaze shifted to Lyra. Speaking of which, the documents were altered, Lyra announced, loud enough for surrounding board members to hear. I have proof of unauthorized access using my credentials. She connected her tablet to the room's main display screen, showing the security logs she'd managed to download before triggering the alarm. The evidence was irrefutable: timestamps, IP addresses, user authentication records, all pointing to systematic document manipulation. This merger is predicated on fraud, Ryder addressed the assembled executives. And worse. He nodded to Elena, who stepped forward with a flash drive. We've recovered additional files from James Wilson's private server. Evidence of industrial espionage dating back 15 years. Conrad's composure finally cracked. You have nothing concrete. We have everything, Elena countered, displaying new documents on the screen, including your communications regarding the sabotage of Alexander Blackwood's private aircraft. Wilson kept excellent records as insurance against you ever turning on him. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Vanessa pushed through the crowd, her perfect facade crumbling as she saw the evidence displayed. Daddy, her voice held genuine shock. Tell me you didn't. Conrad's silence was damning. Within hours, the truth cascaded through both companies. Conrad and Wilson were taken into custody by federal agents. The merger vote was invalidated pending investigation. Vanessa, though apparently unaware of her father's involvement in the Blackwood deaths, faced separate charges for document fraud. 6 months later, Lyra stood in Central Park, watching autumn leaves drift across the path. Willow's treatment had been successful. Her last skin showed no trace of disease. Blackwood Enterprises had absorbed the viable parts of Hartley Industries after Conrad's conviction, but in a restructuring that preserved jobs and innovations. Deep thoughts? Ryder asked, joining her on the bench where they'd first had a real conversation months earlier. Reflecting, Lyra replied, turning her engagement ring. No longer a prop, but a promise made 2 months ago in this same spot. It's been quite a year. Indeed. He took her hand. Having second thoughts about marrying the ruthless billionaire? Former ruthless billionaire, she corrected with a smile. Your foundation's work has somewhat softened that image. The Blackwood Foundation, established with proceeds from the Hartley acquisition, now funded innovative medical research and treatment for patients like Willow. I have a proposal for you, Ryder said, echoing words that had changed both their lives. Another one? Lyra laughed. The last one was rather life-altering. This one's simpler. He pulled her to her feet. Let's get married next month instead of next spring. I've waited long enough to make this real. Lyra studied the man before her, still driven and complex, but no longer consumed by vengeance after finally obtaining justice for his parents. "That," she said, sealing her answer with a kiss, "is an offer I can't refuse."